Hello, everyone. My name is Tony Retta. I'm one of the founders, president, CEO, and director of Tectonic Metals Inc. Our ticker symbol is TECT on the TSX Venture. Big deposits leave big footprints. So what exactly does that mean? Well, from the Tectonic perspective, we don't like focusing on small. I believe it takes just as much time and energy to find a 500,000 ounce gold deposit as it does a 5 million, so why not play big? The next question you need to ask is, how do you identify a mine on day one? It's kind of like trying to find Michael Jordan at the age of 10. You're probably going to pick a lot of people that don't quite make the cut, and then you're going to have that one special individual that turns out to be a legend. Well, there's probably about 2,000 junior mining companies on the TSX-V. I think there's probably 300 companies here. They all have a couple projects, including ourselves. Which one of us is going to find the next mine? Who are you going to bet on? Well, get ready for some failure. It's not always going to go as planned. So from our perspective, we have to focus on risk. Everybody talks about upside. There's speakers here talking about, well, the next big stock, this, that, so on and so forth. But the way to make money is also by focusing on not losing money. It's one of the great things that Warren Buffett says. Rule number one, don't lose money. Rule number two, don't forget rule number one. So we do focus on the upside. We play big, as I mentioned. But in order to play big, you have to focus on the downside or the risk. So what is that? So I'll talk about some of the upside, but I'm also going to talk about how we manage risk. And before I get into it, please, obviously do not expect you to read this right now, but it is located on our website, and it's there for a reason. This came out of VRIC, which caused the Vancouver Stock Exchange to collapse. It's NI 43-101. We are governed, and we have to adhere to rules and regulations, and I would encourage you to take the time to read it before making any investment decision in any company here today. So I mentioned how we like to play big. This is an aspect of our business model. We actually have a business model. We're not just flying by the seat of our pants. We created this model when we formed the company, and we adhere to it. The board of directors holds me accountable to it. And by me communicating it, our shareholders hold me accountable. The next thing is the people. Every company, regardless of what industry you're in, the people make the difference. Projects come and go, but the people is the real asset that creates the team and creates the opportunity and creates value. So to that point, me and a lot of the key members of the team were involved with Kaminak Gold Corporation. I was a VP, the longest serving employee, and we took something that was moose pasture, never drilled, in 2009, right through to 5 million ounces. We produced a very robust feasibility study, and we sold that company for $520 million. It was an open pit heap leach project in the Yukon, and our latest project has some strikingly similar features to that project there. The other thing about going back to risk management, well, there is the geological side of things. There's also the environment. There's the local communities and First Nations. So on that point, we have elected to work in Alaska predominantly on Native-owned land. Now, in Alaska, they prefer to be called Natives. Here, it's First Nations or Indigenous. And this Native corporation, we've done 5 mineral lease agreements with them. And these are not just lease agreements, but they're actual production agreements. So in the junior mining space, when you get to the feasibility stage, you have to negotiate an IBA, which is an impact benefits agreement, a socioeconomic agreement, things of that nature. And it can really derail a project very quickly. So we asked the question, can we do an IBA or socioeconomic agreement on day one? And the answer is yes, you can. And so our projects actually have full production agreements, even though they're earlier stage. We work directly with the Native Corporation on Native-owned land, and it's a concerted effort. It's a partnership where we move forward trying to find the next gold mine that benefits all parties, all shareholders, all stakeholders. They were so impressed with our ability to explore, our business acumen, that they actually elected to make a strategic investment in our company. So this was not just once, this was 3 times. Last year was the 3rd time, and they've invested over $4 million into our company. So we're actually utilizing native capital to explore in their land. That's different. That's unique. And that, when I come to the table or come to the conference or wherever I am, I do have a committed partner next to me. We also benefit from some of the most respected geological funds backing our company. And last but not least, our project is called the Flat Gold Project, is now a core asset of ours, and it does have tier 1 deposit potential. If you don't know what a tier 1 deposit is, what that term means, it basically is 500,000 ounces of annual gold production over a 10-year mine life in the lower half of the cost curve to produce that ounce. And there's a couple other caveats, but the takeaway is that we need to find the Michael Jordan at age 10, and we need to find something significant and big. So the next few slides are going to speak to scale. And on the scale front, so again, big deposits leave big footprints. Tell me about the big footprint, Tony. Well, the blue box is our land position. It's about 92,000 acres, so that in itself is big. What's also interesting is the placer production that has come out of Flat. It's the 4th richest placer mining jurisdiction in Alaska, 1.4 million ounces of gold. This is an historic site, and that dredge actually came from the Guggenheim family. They came over in the 1920s to go placer mine. And what you see there in the yellow, that's our main target called Chicken Mountain. That yellow represents the breadth, the extent of the golden soil anomaly. But this sits on a ridgetop or a hill, and every stream and creek around that is carrying gold. It doesn't take too much imagination to say where's the gold coming from. You don't have to take my word for it. You can actually Google it, read the historical reports, geological, technical, and just history in general. They all tout Chicken Mountain as the bedrock source for gold. That begs the question, how big is the source? So we're here to answer that question, but it's a great starting point. If this hilltop can shed 1.4 million ounces, what else is lurking at depth or along strike? And there are other targets that we believe are on our property that contributed to that 1.4 million ounce placer production. Going back to risk management, infrastructure, it's a huge make it or break it box that needs to get ticked for many projects. We're located near the Donlin Gold Project, which is co-owned by VRIC and Nova Gold 50-50. They spent $60 million last year on this project. It has all of its permits except for one. And one of the key aspects of this project is that they have a permitted gas pipeline from Anchorage to Donlin. We will definitely benefit from the infrastructure that goes into this 40 million ounce undeveloped gold deposit. It's one of the largest undeveloped gold deposits in the world, and it's 40 million ounces. So that's all gravy from my perspective. We view our property as a standalone. And the reason why we acquired this property, again, going back to the size and scale argument, is can this mineral belt, it's called the Kuskokwim Mineral Belt, produce another 40 million ounce gold deposit? And if you find one, it's usually, when it comes to gold systems, they're not a one-off. So there is a high probability that there could be another one lurking within this mineral belt. Again, on the infrastructure side of things, we do have a state-owned airstrip that can accommodate a HERC. And a HERC is a picture of that plane that you see there. It carries 45,000 pounds. It's one of the largest planes that can carry materials to and from the project. The placer miners back in the day also built some dirt and gravel roads, as you see there, that go to the mineralized zones. We don't have to rely on helicopter. And nearby, we do have a commercial barge landing site where you can barge materials to and from 6 months out of the year. And traveling or bringing materials on water, there's nothing cheaper than that. And also the topography is another important issue. This is not a mountainous terrain. It's rolling hills, and it's quite navigable in many ways. We're now zoomed in at the core of the Chicken Mountain, where 55 historical drill holes were drilled by two companies predominantly. That's the mid-'80s and then in the late '90s. And every hole hit gold mineralization. We don't have one that missed. You can see some of the intercepts, 12 grams, or maybe you can't, sorry if it's illegible there, but there's 12.5 grams over 20 meters. There's 0.98 over 70, 5 grams over 7, 27 grams over 1. And those drill holes from one end to the other is 2.6K. Again, going to scale, you're now getting to more evidence to support a large mineralizing system. The kind of purple magenta thing, that's golden soil that's been contoured, and that is 4 kilometers in length and about 600 to 800 meters in width, and still open in all directions for further expansion, but big footprint. And to further sort of emphasize the extent of golden soils versus drilling, you can see in the top view here, those are the drill holes, there's the golden soil. Less than 50% of the golden soil has been tested. And because this is unglaciated terrain, when you take a soil sample, it is a direct reflection of the bedrock mineralization below your feet. And we know golden soils work because the drilling, all 55 holes hit gold, came from targeting golden soils and historical placer workings. And if you look here, you can see the 2.6K. And the other thing to note is that out of the 55 holes, 25 of them ended in mineralization. So I challenge any company, and my geologists, or our geologists, have a huge task ahead of them because they don't want to break the streak. Now, the chances are we will break the streak, but I challenge anyone to drill 25 holes, have every hole hit gold, and make sure that 25 of them don't step out of mineralization. We have only drilled down 100 meters vertical, so again, a huge amount of potential, and you can see the strike in depth and how quickly you can build a volume of mineralization or tonnage for that matter. Now, what we're doing that's different, again, going back to risk, we've only had this project for about a year. So we've done only one exploration season, but the thing that we're doing differently is we're going after the big risk items. We talked about the First Nations or natives. We've assessed the environment. We're also now doing metallurgy. So metallurgy is the ability to extract the gold from the rock. It's the biggest make it or break it for many mines, or the deciding factor of what makes a mine. It also determines your cost per ounce, how are you going to mine it, things of that nature. So this metallurgical sampling or testing that we're doing, we're expecting those results in the next 2 weeks. It's probably been about a 3 to 4 month process to get here. But now when we go drill, you'll have context with every drill hole on whether or not that, what's the metallurgy like for the gold that's in the system right now. After that, we'll be drill testing our project late this spring, so stay tuned for that. Once again, we're just across the way, and I'll be respectful of the time here and leave it at that. Thank you, everyone.